Most footballers spend years chasing confidence. They think confidence comes first, then good performances follow. But elite players understand something almost nobody else does. Confidence is not the cause, it's the result. That's why some players lose confidence after one bad game, while others can make 3 mistakes in 5 minutes and still demand the ball. The difference isn't talent, it is a personality, and it definitely isn't motivation, it's a system. And once you understand that system, you'll stop depending on confidence and start creating it. Because the biggest lie in football is that confident players feel confident all the time. They don't. But here's what they do differently. Most players think confidence is an emotion, something you either have or don't have. You play well, you feel confident. You play badly, you lose confidence. Sounds logical. But there's a problem. If your confidence depends on your last performance, then your confidence is always fragile. One bad touch, one missed chance, one mistake, and suddenly your entire game changes. You stop taking risks, you stop showing for the ball, you start playing safe. You become a completely different player. What's interesting is that the mistake isn't technical, it's psychological. Most players are trying to feel confident before they act. Elite players act first and let confidence catch up later. That's a completely different approach, and it changes everything. The hidden reason players struggle with confidence is simple. They attach their identity to outcomes. Think about it. Miss a shot, and you feel like a bad finisher. Lose possession. And suddenly you think your dribbling isn't good enough. Have one poor game, and now you're questioning everything. Your confidence isn't actually being damaged by mistakes. It's being damaged by the meaning you're giving those mistakes. Elite players don't see mistakes as identity evidence. They see them as information. That's a massive difference. Imagine two midfielders. Both lose possession. The first player thinks, here we go again. I always mess up. The second player thinks, I receive on the wrong foot. Next time I'll open my body sooner. Same mistake. Completely different response. One attacks himself. The other analyzes the situation. One loses confidence. The other gains understanding. And that's where the confidence system begins. Not with belief, with interpretation. Now let's break down the 4 parts of that system. Most players try to motivate themselves. Elite players build evidence. Motivation is unstable. Evidence is difficult to argue with. Before a match, many players say things like, I'm going to play amazing today. But deep down, they don't fully believe it. Why? Because the brain wants proof. Elite players understand this. Instead of collecting motivational quotes, they collect evidence. Completed training sessions, successful repetitions, consistent habits, progressive improvements. Every session becomes a confidence deposit. Think of confidence like a bank account. Every quality action adds money. Every skipped session removes opportunity. When match day arrives, you're not relying on hope. You're relying on evidence. You know you've earned the right to trust yourself, and that's a much stronger foundation. But confidence isn't built only before games. It must survive inside games too. That's where the second principle comes in. One reason players panic is because they're mentally trying to win the entire match at once. They think about impressing scouts, scoring goals, avoiding mistakes, winning, looking good, all simultaneously. That's impossible. Elite players do something different. They shrink the game. Instead of thinking about 90 minutes, they focus on the next action. The next pass, the next press. The next run, the next duel, nothing else. This sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Because anxiety lives in the future, execution lives in the present. Imagine you're a winger who just lost possession twice. Most players start thinking, this is embarrassing. What if I lose it again? What does the coach think? Elite players ask a different question. What does this moment require? That's it. They return attention to the present task, and confidence starts returning immediately, because confidence grows through action, not thinking. Here's a trait you rarely hear coaches discuss. Elite players are surprisingly resistant to outcomes, not because they don't care, because they don't let outcomes control their behavior. A striker misses an easy chance. What happens next? Average players disappear. Elite players demand the next chance. A defender makes an error. Average players become cautious. Elite players continue playing aggressively. Why? Because they've learned something important. One outcome doesn't predict the next. Football is too chaotic. The unpredictable. Too complex. When your confidence depends on immediate results, football becomes an emotional roller coaster. When your confidence depends on your process, performance becomes much more stable. This is why some players remain dangerous even after mistakes. They're not outcome dependent. They're process dependent. And that's a huge advantage. But there's another layer most players completely ignore. Part 4. Control your internal commentary. You are constantly talking to yourself during matches. The problem is most players never notice it. After mistakes, the internal commentary becomes brutal. That was terrible. You're playing badly. Don't mess up again. Imagine hearing that from a coach every 30 seconds. You'd probably play worse. Yet many players say it to themselves all game long. Elite footballers don't necessarily think positively. That's a myth. They think usefully. That's different. Useful thoughts create solutions. Destructive thoughts create pressure. For example, instead of, "You're terrible today," try, "Quicker scan before receiving." Instead of, "Don't lose the ball," try, "Protect the ball and play forward." One creates panic. The other creates direction. Your brain performs best when it receives instructions, not criticism. And this final piece connects everything together. Because confidence isn't built through emotional speeches. It's built through repeated moments of useful behavior. Now let's make this practical. Here's a confidence challenge you can use in your very next training session. Step 1. Before training, write down 3 actions completely under your control, not outcomes. Actions. Examples: scan before receiving. Sprint after losing possession. Communicate constantly. Step 2. During training, judge yourself only on those actions. Ignore goals. Ignore mistakes. Ignore results. Step 3. After training, score yourself out of 10. Not based on performance, based on execution. Did you complete your actions? Did you follow the process? Did you stay committed? Repeat this for 2 weeks. Something surprising will happen. Your confidence will stop depending on random outcomes and start depending on behaviors you actually control. Then take the same system into matches. Create 3 controllable actions before every game. Focus on them relentlessly and watch what happens. Not immediately, not magically, but consistently. Because real confidence grows slowly, then suddenly feels unstoppable. The players who reach the highest levels aren't fearless. They're not permanently confident, and they definitely don't avoid doubt. They simply stop treating confidence like a feeling they must wait for. Instead, they build systems that create confidence regardless of circumstances. That's the shift. The goal isn't becoming a player who always feels confident. The goal is becoming a player who can perform even when confidence is low. Because that's when real growth begins. That's when your game becomes reliable. That's when you separate yourself from players who need perfect conditions to perform. And maybe the most important lesson of all, confidence isn't something elite footballers possess. It's something they continuously create. If this video helped you rethink confidence, comment system below. And if you want to become the type of player who performs under pressure instead of shrinking from it, make sure you're subscribed because that's exactly what we'll build next.